On this edition of Southern Newsweek, there's been a significant budget blowout for Christchurch's multi-use stadium. We have a glimpse at an illuminating event in Queenstown. And we're there as thousands of people look at potential careers at Dunedin's under construction hospital. Kia ora, good evening, I'm Hannah Wilkins. The cost of building Christchurch's multi-use arena has skyrocketed. It's now estimated to cost up to $683 million for the total project. That's a $200 million increase on what was originally budgeted in early 2021. The blowout will delay the project further and could even halt it altogether, with the Christchurch City Council to consider its next moves next week.
It's an ambitious project that just keeps growing. Christchurch's long-awaited multi-use arena is still in the planning stages. But there's now a possibility those plans could again be changed, or even put on hold. Latest figures presented to Christchurch City Councillors project the total cost of the covered arena to be at least $673 million. Add to that further possible cost escalations, estimated at $10 million. And the news isn't good for the company charged with delivering the stadium.
It's fair to say we've gone from a price rise to a price shock, and we really need to understand what has happened over this period of time and why we have such an overheated construction market.
The huge blowout was revealed this week after lead contractor B6 Watpac delivered its final design and construct submission. Crucially, the company wasn't willing to provide a fixed price for the massive project because of the volatility in the overheated construction market.
There's a number of factors going on here, as I explained before. Labour shortages, supply disruption, raw material prices.
The report will go to Council next week, with a recommendation the arena project goes back out for public consultation. Christchurch City Council Chief Executive Dawn Baxendale says residents will get to have their say on the three potential options.
That consultation will look at three potential options. Whether we should consider increasing the budget. Secondly, whether we should consider scaling the project back. Many of you will remember that we had a significant petition last year. I think it was 24,000 people who asked us to raise the number of seats in the stadium to 30,000. And finally, whether we should halt the project.
If councillors decide to stump up the extra cash, the opening date for the covered 30,000 seat stadium in central Christchurch could be pushed out to April 2026, and redesigning the stadium to a smaller scale would delay the opening even further. In Christchurch, the South today.
Dunedin businesses are looking to encourage school students to pick up a hammer and put their construction hats on. A career fair held recently had the goal of inspiring teenagers to help be a part of building the new Dunedin hospital.
Practicing some skills which might come in handy. Large groups of school students checked out the Otago Tairi A&P showgrounds recently to see if a job in construction could be in their futures. The students were able to grab hold of hardware tools to take part in competitions and workshops at the Workforce Central Career Fair. The event had a specific goal, organisers hoping some of the teams will be a part of building Dunedin's new hospital.
There's certainly an acute skills shortage now. When the hospital build starts, it's going to become very, very important to make sure we've got the correct skills on board.
Around 30 businesses set up stalls at the event, with the knowledge that hundreds of workers will be needed for the $1.5 billion construction in central Dunedin. And while some skilled tradespeople will come from outside the city, inspiring local students could help future-proof the project's expected worker shortages.
We need around about 300 local people from Dunedin to express an interest to working at the hospital, and we need a further 600 people from outside Dunedin because we simply aren't big enough to supply the full labour force.
Businesses also believe diversifying the workforce is much needed.
And if you think of the low numbers of Maori, Pacifica, women, people with disabilities, immigrants, migrant labourers, the numbers are far too low. They're represented in construction, and we'd like to boost those numbers.
The construction industry was a major focus of the fair, but also highlighted was the range of healthcare roles which will be required once the hospital has been completed. In Dunedin, the South today.
A scaled-back pop-up version of Queenstown's popular Luma Light Festival will be held this weekend after a few years of COVID disruption. The 2022 event's called Lumify Laneways and is billed as a close-quarters light show showcasing the work of local artists.
Illuminating laneways in downtown Queenstown. This weekend, downtown Queenstown will host a light show known this year as Lumify. A trimmed-down version of the annual Luma Light Festival, the bright and colourful art exhibition will feature light displays and performance art in 4 different laneways around the town. Church Lane, Cyril Lane, Cow Lane and Lower Beach Street are each set to showcase different themes. Duncan Forsyth, chair of Luma Trust, says the location for the event was chosen for a specific purpose.
And we're working on the laneways because they're often the forgotten pieces, but at the same time that's actually where the hive of activities are. That's where the bars are, that's where the galleries are, that's where the more exciting often parts of urban life are, and we want to highlight those here in Queenstown.
Earlier this year, the Trust decided to cancel the traditional event that would normally be held near the waterfront and in the Queenstown Gardens, due to uncertainty around COVID-19. However, the downsized event is aiming to provide an intimate vibe between people and the art. Forsyth says the lanes will include something for every demographic, with the environment playing a role in the nature of the event.
Doing something different in an urban environment, it's not going to be Luma in the Gardens because of what you're working with. You're working with an active space already. There's lights, there's businesses, there's people in an urban scene. So what people are going to see is a take on that.
The event's supported by the Queenstown Council, Central Lakes Trust, Community Trust South, as well as local businesses. The lights will be turned on at 5:30 p.m. each night until going dark at 10 p.m, with Lumify running from Friday through to next Monday. In Queenstown, The South Today.
Almost 2,000 new dwellings could be built around Dunedin over the next 10 years after the City Council revealed a series of changes to its second generation plan. Many suburbs have been rezoned to enable higher density housing or smaller site sizes. The changes are aimed at ensuring Dunedin is able to provide for its ageing population, along with catering to the increase in 1 or 2 person households.
The days of the white picket fence and good old Kiwi quarter-acre section may be on the wane, with more small units and apartments expected to pop up in Dunedin. The City Council has announced a series of adjustments to its second-generation district plan. The changes, known as Variation 2, were in response to a projected shortfall in housing capacity.
What Variation 2 has done is remove many of the restrictions around the family flats, particularly in terms of who can live in them. So essentially now we've moved to a framework where you can have a minor dwelling of 60 square meters, and that can be consented to up to 80 square meters as a minor dwelling in your general residential 1 and your service, township and settlement areas.
DCC City Development Manager Dr Anna Johnson says the new rules will enable the city to grow, while appropriately managing the effects of that growth. The council's created 12 new medium-density zones. They'll be in Mosgiel, Concord, Andersons Bay, Wakari, Mornington, Belnells, Roslyn, Māori Hill, Kaikorai Valley and Opahu. However, most of the suburb of Green Island has been removed from the list.
There is a land instability area that's a few blocks away, and basically, as a precautionary approach, the panel, based on submissions, decided not to extend that area until more geotechnical investigation was done, just to confirm that the boundaries that they did have for that nearby land instability area were accurate.
The council's decisions allow for about 1,900 new dwellings to be added over the next decade. Other key changes include removing restrictions to who lives in family flats and allowing smaller site sizes, more flexibility for development, and better provision for social housing. Anna Johnson says the council has consulted widely over the past few years.
The parties that were involved in the hearings process included a number of surveyors and developers, as well as the regional council. So a lot of what came through the decisions was fine-tuning.
She's confident 2GP changes will also help provide for the city's ageing population, as well as the growing number of 1 and 2 person households. Submitters have until mid-July to lodge any appeals. In Dunedin, The South Today.
Still to come on this edition of Southern Newsweek, a group of southern chicken farm workers are extra irritated about poultry wages, and Wanaka youths are being invited to take part in a financial literacy course. Tēnā koe, welcome back. More than 30 egg farm workers gathered at their employer's head office in Dunedin recently to protest against low wages. Z Gold is one of the country's largest egg producers, with more than 1 million hens in service and hundreds of employees nationwide.
Workers sick of being paid chicken feed and hoping to ruffle some feathers at head office. About 30 employees of Z Gold New Zealand took concerns over low pay to the streets on Wednesday outside their employer's office.
The workers feel like they've had to accept pretty mediocre deals for quite a few years. Some years have been okay, but most years have been fairly average. And with the cost of inflation, prices going up for fuel, food, everything that every worker has to encounter, it's just getting too hard for them to get to work, do the job. They work hard, they feel like they're not being recognised for it, and they just want a fair deal.
One worker who didn't want to be named says some staff have had to go to food banks just to get by. E2 union organiser Gwyn Stevenson says they've been in pay negotiations with Z Gold for about 3 months, but claims there was a lot of squawking and not much action from the company.
We picked up early on that there were a lot of no's coming from the other side of the table. There wasn't going to be much give, so the members were ready to do something to show that we're not going to accept it this year. We want a decent deal.
The company is one of the largest egg producers in the country, with 1.3 million hens. A total of 60 staff from the company's Waikoaiti site continued a 2-day strike after negotiations between the company and union broke down.
It's not something we've done lightly, it's not something the members want to do. They've made that quite clear, and they've told the manager that this isn't a place we wanted to get to, but they feel they have to because of the way that things have been going.
The union says members are asking for about 10% extra pay. Z Gold staff are employed by its parent company, Mainland Poultry. Company Chief Executive John Mackay told the ODT he was unable to comment in detail while negotiations are still in progress. In Dunedin, the South Today.
Youth workers say increases to basic costs of living, including fuel and groceries, are having a social drip-down effect on teenagers' sporting and social lives. Petrol prices have risen again across the nation, with smaller regional areas faring worst as the cost of 91 octane pushes the $3 a litre mark.
For many teens living in rural communities, driving is seen as an important part of their socialising and independence. Now, as the price of petrol hits the $3 mark in rural areas, some Wanaka teens are worried about their future and the negative role and effects of teenage boredom in the community.
I'm kind of thinking about the cost of uni and everything. Just with a big student loan, I don't know. I don't want to be repaying it for the rest of my life, because there's a lot of people out there that end up just going into hospitality and end up having to pay it back for about 15 years.
Yeah, just figure out a way to go to uni, get that education but not be in debt.
Rising petrol prices are just one of the cost pressures on the area's teens as they prepare to leave school, with many planning to head to university. Wanaka librarian Eve Marshall-Lee has noticed a gap in financial literacy support for school leavers. In response, she's organising a workshop on the topic in early June at the Lake Wanaka Centre. It's being supported by Family Works Otago, along with local business Drive Accounting. Managing Director Hayley Hobson believes teenagers today face different challenges to when she was at that stage of life.
And I know from my generation, we left home a lot earlier, so we had to understand the value of money, and a lot of us, well, me myself, I had to get a job and support myself. I didn't have a student loan, so I understood the value of money a lot more because I had to pay my rent, I had to buy my food.
She says many teens are staying at home longer, which means there's potentially not the immediate need to have a broad understanding of finances. The workshop aims to improve the financial literacy of the region's youth with topics like flatting budgets and student loans. The workshop is being run with the help of Family Works Otago and will be held at the Lake Wanaka Centre. In Wanaka, the South Today.
An Otago University scheme is aiming to help young flatmates achieve a balanced diet. The Feed My Flat program has been developed especially for students to give them some ideas to solve those dinner time woes.
All packed and ready to feed some hungry flatmates. These bags are loaded with vegetables, meat and other essential food items designed to give students some nutrient-rich meals. The not-for-profit project Feed My Flat has been developed at Otago University with a simple goal in mind.
We want to support the students to build the basic cooking skills and to learn how they can eat healthy on a budget.
The food bags are aimed at helping young students move on from 2-minute noodle dinners to something a bit healthier.
Along with the bag, we will send out electronic recipes for the students, which have all the ingredients and instructions alongside with some cooking tips and nutrition tips, and students can easily replicate those recipes in the future.
The food bags contain enough ingredients for 3 meals per week, with 4 and 6 portion options available to suit different sized flats. Cheap meal ideas can also be found on Feed My Flat's Facebook page to help the wider student community.
Students are already stressed about study, about exam, and having to think about what to eat and learn how to eat healthy can be an added stress. So we want to provide support around that, so that students will be able to learn how to look after themselves while they are at uni.
Students are able to order the Feed My Flat bags online, with the packs being distributed via Otago University's Human Nutrition Department. In Dunedin, the South Today.
Invercargill's new 4.5-star hotel is taking shape, with contractors working at full steam to get everything ready to open in August. The Invercargill Licensing Trust is building the Langlands Hotel on the corner of D and Don Streets, which will offer some impressive facilities for the southern city.
From construction site to luxury, almost 5-star accommodation. The Langlands Hotel is a major project by the Invercargill Licensing Trust in downtown Invercargill, which will offer a new level of premium accommodation in the city when it opens in August.
So you're looking at the carpet, which has got the flecks of water, it's supposed to be like that, the natural woods, the timber of our beautiful landscape, and then you'll see some other natural tones and greens come in as well, to a nod to our beautiful region.
With the opening deadline less than 3 months away, it's all hands on deck to get the remainder of the work done. ILT Communications Manager Emma Hunter says they're aiming to have the guest rooms open first.
So we are looking at a staged opening from August onwards, so predominantly the accommodation is our priority, so we'll start from that, from the bottom up. So the Brood Cafe will be open first, and our 2 doors down, which will cater to the accommodation guests. Then we will look at Meld and Niche, which is our laneway bar, finally up to the top to 360.
The plan will see the first 3 floors of the 7-storey building open in August, which will include 78 guest suites along with the 2 doors down bar and Brood Cafe. She says the local community has been very supportive.
They've all had buy-in and it's just really exciting. The outside looks ready. If you'll notice, the outside, the bottom is a nod to the past with the brick sort of texture. Then we get to the first the band there, which is where the original building stood, and then the next level is our nod to the future, our lantern looking forward, and everyone's been really supportive of it.
The rest of the Langlands offerings are set to be opened over the last few months of the year. It's hoped the facility will completely open to the public by the end of the year. In Invercargill, the South Today.
After the break on Southern Newsweek, Queenstown locals and more flock to an annual ski sale ahead of the snow season. And we'll meet a southern karate queen who's punching and kicking above her weight. Tēnā koe, welcome back. One of Queenstown's longest running community sales continues to prove popular after more than 40 years. The Whakatipu ski sale drew bargain hunting crowds from far and wide recently as winter rapidly approaches.
A queue snaked alongside the Queenstown Event Centre at the weekend, almost reaching the netball courts at the airport end of the facility. Eager skiers and snowboarders were keen to stock up for the upcoming season at the popular annual Whakatipu Ski Club sale.
Conservatively, I've got to say there's 1,500 people came through at the opening, and then plus that will come in as the sale continues.
Some people got there about an hour before doors opened to ensure they were among the first to get their pick of the pre-loved skis, poles, boards and wide range of clothing. Sales manager Peter Devine has been organising the event for the past 22 years of its 40-year history.
It started as a swap shop many years ago and has become more sophisticated over time. It's now a one-day, once-a-year sale where we put on 3,000 plus items, get 1,500, 2,000 Queenstowners come through, and we can deck the whole family out for relatively, for really good prices.
The sale is an important fundraiser for the ski club, with this year's 2-hour sale expected to raise about $14,000. About 120 volunteers worked hard to keep up with the scores of bargain hunters coming through. And shoppers won't have long to wait to test out their new purchases. Cardrona Alpine Resort is scheduled to open on Saturday, followed by Coronet Peak on June 17, the Remarkables a day later, and finally Treble Cone on June 25th. In Queenstown, the South Today.
The glimmer of Winter Olympic medals were on show at Tairi College as snow sport athletes visited Mosgiel as part of a tour around the south. Paralympian Adam Hall was welcomed back to his old stomping ground, passing on some sage advice to the school kids.
A round of applause to celebrate their success. Winter para-alpine skier Adam Hall soaked up the appreciation on Thursday from Year 9 and 10 students at Tairi College. Hall was proud to show off his recent Winter Olympic medals, telling the teens what it means to be a Paralympian.
And I guess you just have a different look at life perhaps with certain things that happen throughout your journey, and look at those obstacles and challenges, and it's always about looking at it the other side, and if you face that challenge you step towards it and try and always turn a negative or something bad into a positive.
He was flanked by fellow athletes Corey Peters and Zoe Sadowski-Sinnott, who are also part of the celebratory tour. A group of Winter Olympians and Paralympians are making their way around the South Island with the aim of inspiring New Zealand's next generation of snow sport athletes.
It doesn't matter where you come from, it doesn't matter what your story is, you come from a small little rural place, even though Tairi has grown so much over the years. It's really cool to showcase that you can go on and do great things.
The Olympic trio were kept busy with a round of questions from the students and maybe planting the seed for future athletes. In Mosgiel, the South Today.
Queenstown athlete Mackenzie Jackson is getting excited about representing the country at next month's Oceania Karate Champs. The teenager's been training hard in preparation for the event and is confident she could have a shot at the medals.
A fighting chance to win big overseas. Queenstown karate athlete Mackenzie Jackson is getting ready to head to New Caledonia, where she'll represent New Zealand at the Oceania Karate Championships. The 16-year-old Wakatipu High School student is one of 39 athletes selected from around the country. The talented teen will be performing in both the kumite and kata disciplines, and says she appreciates the different aspects of the sport.
I like the discipline it brings to my everyday life, but I also like the competitive side of it as well, yeah.
There are two types of karate. Kata is about how strong you are and how you look, and kumite is about scoring points on the head and the body. Athletes are selected based on a range of factors, including competition results and attendance at trainings where Karate New Zealand can gauge the athlete's abilities. Jackson's mother introduced her to the discipline when she was 11 years old, as a way of improving her self-defense. She soon became captivated by the competitive side of the sport. Jackson now trains 4 to 5 times a week, mostly at her home dojo, Shukukai Karate in Frankton.
I hope to keep competing at an international level, but I've also started coaching younger kids, teaching them competition things, and hopefully we can get them to achieve their goals.
And now that she's getting into the elite end of the sport, she's looking forward to more top-level competition, while helping train the craft to younger children. Jackson will face off against a range of opponents in New Caledonia through a series of random draws. She's looking forward to heading somewhere warmer and is hoping to be able to head to a beach at some point for the chance to relax and celebrate her success. In Queenstown, the South Today.
And that wraps up this edition of Southern Newsweek. For the latest news and videos from the Southern region, head online to odt.co.nz. And you can follow Channel 39 on YouTube to catch our news bulletins on demand. Nō reira, kia pai te po, ka kite anō.
Public interest journalism funded through New Zealand On Air.